Welcome back to talknorth.com. Thank you for listening. If you can, please download before you listen. It helps our business. I'd also like to thank our producer, Brandon Morton, and let you know if you'd like to sponsor this program or any of the programs on the network, you can reach me at jsouhan47@gmail.com. Talknorth.com is powered by Bite Squad. Go to bitesquad.com or download their app. Get food to your door in minutes. Use the promo code TALKNORTH to get your first delivery free. Talk North gets you your first delivery free.
I'll never give up on this state. I believe that I will see one Minnesota championship. I'll defend the move to go out and sign Ryan Suter and Zach Parise until the day I die. They've brought us 6 straight playoff appearances and have completely changed the feel of this franchise. The Twins, I mean, let's be honest, they're a clown show right now. They're 2 future stars who expect to lead this team. Can't stay out of Rochester, and the other one can't stay out of a restaurant. I've said this before. Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer, they have a chance here to become one of the greatest GM head coach duos in NFL history if they do it right. Can we please stop coddling Joe Mauer? His last relevant year was 2013. Awesome player from 2006 to 2013, but please, he's a pedestrian hitter, and if his name wasn't Joe Mauer, he wouldn't be on the Twins. So Tom Thibodeau wants us Timberwolf fans to be sold on him and the franchise, but you're going to tell me you're going to trade Zach LaVine, who looked pretty good, Chris Dunn, fine, and Lauri Markkanen, who looked pretty promising, for 55 games with Jimmy Butler, who doesn't even want to go on the plane after Game 5 with his team?
You're listening to the Strom Sports Show.
And it's good to have you with us here on the talknorth.com podcast network. Brandon Morton is the producer. Jim Souhan is the guy to contact if you want to advertise with the show. Now, we've got a busy show ahead of us today. I first want to say I got a special guest. I have Alan Sliwa of ESPN 710 coming on just to kind of get a different perspective about this Jimmy Butler drama and what's going on. And he's, listen, Jimmy Butler's in the loop there with what's going on maybe in LA. Maybe he goes there, not this year. Maybe he signs there. So he's going to give us some stuff on what's going on, why he thinks this is going on, and what the next move the Timberwolves should really make here. Because the reports now, I'm recording this on a Wednesday, that Jimmy Butler wants to go to Miami, and he wants to go play with his buddy, Dwayne Wade. Obviously, both went to Marquette. They're both very close friends. But I just want to kind of get into the Butler thing real quick before we have him on. I wanted to really get your feelings on this. I mean, if you're a Timberwolf fan right now, how are you feeling? Because there's a lot of emotions going on for me. Let's start with the Jimmy Butler aspect of it. Let's look at it in his way. Okay, so Jimmy Butler obviously doesn't believe that this team is going to win anytime soon, right? So fine, okay? Fine. Why do you request to go to the Clippers, Knicks, or Nets then? Even the Heat at this point. Are they going anywhere? I mean, if you look at the roster, what gives you the best chance to win? The Timberwolves, the Knicks, Nets, Clippers, or Heat? I mean, I think it's a pretty clear answer here. And then you want to give me the money aspect of it. Well, can't the Timberwolves offer you the most money out of these teams if they give you your max? So something's not adding up, because then he likes to give the whole Wiggins and Towns spiel. Okay, you had problems with them in the offseason. Well, as soon as John Krasinski asked, hey, is that something to do with it? No, it has nothing to do with it. Jimmy Butler, you said and preached the loyalty and how hard you work, and I say it how it is, I tell it how it is, that's just me, I'm Jimmy, I'll tell you this, if I feel like that, I'll tell you this. Well, you're not being upfront with the fans that welcomed you in and cheered you on like you've been there for years. You're completely turning the back of the Timberwolves franchise, the fan base, Tom Thibodeau, Glenn Taylor, Scott Layden, and I'll get into those guys in a couple minutes. But man, you're going to do this after, honor a contract. If you sign a contract, honor it. You have one more year left. Honor it. Because you put such a tough spot for Glenn Taylor. So what do you do now? Okay, yes, sir, Jimmy, yes, we just gave away, Zach LaVine, Lauri Markkanen, and Chris Dunn, but hey, we'll let you go wherever you want to go. No. Then you look at the other side of it. What are you going to just let him rot and just not get anything for him at the end of the year? So in terms here, you heard it in my opening, you traded Chris Dunn, Zach LaVine, Lauri Markkanen for 55 games with Jimmy Butler in a 5-game playoff series. That's what you did. Why wasn't Scott Layden, Glenn Taylor, Tom Titt, why weren't those guys on it before all this went down? Why are you talking to him in September when the season's around the corner? What happened in the summer? You don't reach out? Obviously something's not right. You heard reports all summer. Jimmy's not happy. Jimmy doesn't want to sign long term. Why would you wait this long? Now if you trade him, you almost feel like it's a force. Like, oh, we have to trade him. So you're not really getting as much value as you can. You're kind of forcing the trade. Don't do that. Don't do that. So a team that won 31 games 2 years ago, 46 in the playoffs last year, is now back in the same spot they were a year ago. And now the Lakers have LeBron, so that's going to be one playoff team that's in and one playoff team out in the West. What's it going to be? Timberwolves are losing me, and I bet a lot of you right now, and saying, well, we were just growing. We just made the playoffs. It's been 14 years since we made the playoffs. Now what? No Jimmy? What are we? What team do we have? Is it still the 31-win team that was there with Wiggins and Towns? Or can you grow? Or can you say, okay, we have Jeff Teague still. We have Taj Gibson. Okay. We got 2 young rookies we believe in. Pick your poison. Alan Sliwa of ESPN 710 joins me to discuss the craziness of the Jimmy Butler situation. He is the host of Lakers Talk on ESPN 710. You can catch that Monday evening, 7 to 9 p.m. out in L.A. You can also follow him on Twitter at Lakers Talk ESPN. He does a really great job with it. I listen a lot. Alan, thank you so much for giving me the time and coming on.
No problem, man. No problem.
All right, so let's begin with this. Tom Thibodeau said Monday that if Butler isn't traded in the next week, he'll rejoin the team. There's been mixed reports. What is your feeling in all of this? Is this a good thing at this point? Because why would you want a guy who has no interest in playing for a team being there and practicing? Like, what is your take of this?
I think the whole thing's a little bit weird, to be honest with you. You know, T-Wolves last season, they sneak into the playoffs. They get an 8th seed. They obviously, face a very, very good Houston Rockets team that could have won the NBA championship. Jimmy Butler was injured for part of that run towards the end. And, you kind of think to yourself, all right, they're going to build off of this.
Right.
You got young stars, the Karl Anthony Towns, the Wiggins. I don't know what happened. I don't know what changed. But, just kind of watching from the outside with the T-Wolves, that is, somebody screwed things up. And what I mean by that is, you have an opportunity to kind of make a little bit of noise in the Western Conference. Are you going to beat the Warriors? Are you going to beat the Rockets? Probably not, but nobody else in the Western Conference, will most likely, do either as well. So it's very, very weird that a team that you feel like is growing in the right direction is making, kind of starting to make their strides in the Western Conference. Now all of a sudden you're going to lose Jimmy Butler. So that whole predicament is something's off to me. I think some players look selfish in the entire mix. Yep. I think Thibodeau looks like it feels like he doesn't have full control of his players. And Glenn Taylor, obviously the owner, steps in, is looking for, all right, who's going to be my franchise player for the next 10 years? And obviously he made a statement by paying up Karl Anthony Towns, and we probably saw Butler's last game in Minnesota.
I agree. And you said it. You hit it right on the head. It felt like this team was growing. 31 wins before Jimmy Butler gets there. 46 wins last year. And you said it. At the end of the year, Butler got hurt. So that could have been a completely different scenario in the playoffs. You finished at the 8th seed, but at one point, you were battling for the 3 and 4 seed. So very good point there. Where is this franchise going? That's a real question. But if you are Scott Layden and Tom Thibodeau, what are you looking for in exchange for Butler where you feel somewhat content about it?
That's the difficult position that they're in. But I will say this. I've always had this, they say out there, well, the longer you wait, the worse the offers are going to get. I just don't know if that's the reality. The reality, the way I see it is, get the deal that you want. And if it's not the deal that you want, you just sit pat and wait. Jimmy Butler is a Jimmy Butler can be the difference of a team going to the finals and not going to the finals. That's how good Jimmy Butler is. So there are going to be teams out there that can use a guy like Jimmy Butler. The Philadelphia 76ers, there were talks that maybe the Houston Rockets would step up and be interested. There are going to be a few teams that know that they can go from we're on the fringe to, wow, we can compete for a championship, or a team that is kind of, maybe they're like the Minnesota Timberwolves and they don't want to just sneak into the playoffs. They want to solidify themselves in the East or the West. So what you're looking for is, I think at this point in the Western Conference, maybe some draft picks, maybe some young players, because the reality is that Western Conference is so stacked.
Yep.
And your franchise players in Karl-Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins are so young. You don't have to be in this rush to, we have to get to the playoffs next year. Over the next couple of years, if you do a trade that makes sense, that's kind of thinking a little bit more long-term, maybe the timing is a little better for the Timberwolves, that in 2-3 years, they're not just in the playoffs, but they can make a 3, 4, 5-year run.
Two more on the Timberwolves, and we'll get into your Lakers. First of all, what direction now do you see the Wolves heading in without Jimmy Butler? And do you think that Tom Thibodeau is the guy for this franchise?
I've never been a fan of the coach controlling everything. So president of basketball operations, and then, you're obviously you're the head coach as well. I don't know if Tibbs will be the guy for the future, and I say that because, look, Jimmy Butler was that was a trade that he was kind of banking on to bring an all-star to the franchise, and then they can kind of grow from there. I think they're taking a step back. So if you look at the Western Conference, teams that made the playoffs, who's going to come out if the Lakers are going to come in? Or are the Denver Nuggets good enough to come in? And if they come in, who comes out? I see the T-Wolves dropping back. And, part of that might be strategic. They might be thinking, look, the timing isn't now. We got all these young players. It might be okay for them to take a step back. But I certainly think that momentum I thought they were building off of from last year, out of nowhere, I think that ship has sailed.
Now, let's talk a little about LeBron's arrival in L.A., and there's a lot of talent on that team, and you got to believe that this is a playoff team this year, which means there's a team who's going to be the odd man out this year. Who do you think that will be from last year's playoffs?
So T-Wolves, I would say, is one of them. I don't know if I'm as sold on the Portland Trailblazers as maybe some other individuals out there. I think the Pelicans it's kind of a wild card for them as well. Yeah, you love AD. You love, obviously, Julius Randle. I think that's a good fit for them. But I think they lost. I think Rajon Rondo was a big piece to that team, and I think they lost their floor general. And that also, that had Drew Holiday then, playing the two, and he can do more of what he does. So part of me thinks that, those are three teams right there that, could potentially fall out of the mix. And if one or two of them fall, that's when other teams will step in.
Now, if you're Magic Johnson right now, do you try and pursue Butler? Would he fit? How do you feel about that?
I think what the Lakers have done to this point, where you got this young crew of assets, and I say assets because I think a lot of other teams would love to have a guy like Brandon Ingram or Josh Hart or Kuz or Lonzo. I think they're going to at least allow, the season to start first couple months in to just see what they have. This team has never played together, so you don't know how Brandon Ingram's going to play with LeBron James or how Kuzma's going to fit with some of these other players. So I think the Lakers have been very consistent to say we're not going to trade for Paul George, we're not going to trade for Kawhi Leonard. We have $38 million plus in cap space next summer. Let's see what we have first before we make any moves. And I think they're going to stand pat. They're going to wait. And I think it's a smart strategy. Nobody's going to beat the Golden State Warriors this year. At least that's what it looks like. This isn't your year anyways. By the time they get towards the trade deadline, maybe there's some available players that they can kind of pick off from other teams. But I really, really think they're kind of banking on the 2019-2020 season to go all in.
Last one here, I'll let you go. I've gone back and forth with many people about this, about Andrew Wiggins. I don't know if this guy peaked already. I don't know if he can get better. Defensively, he's been disappointing. Do you think it may have been a mistake signing Wiggins long-term and letting go of Zach LaVine?
It's a good question. I will say this. I think in the NBA, I've always Wiggins is young enough and talented enough to where it's a good risk to take. it's different. When the Lakers went out and they signed Timofey Mozgov or they signed Luol Deng, these are players you already knew what their ceiling